On the line with me right now, Keshav from Skyharbor. Thanks for joining us.
Uh, it's my pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's an absolute pleasure. Tell me how this band got together. Started as your solo project, am I right?
Yes, that's right. So as it happens, I was, there was a very young and very nascent sort of burgeoning independent music scene in the country. I think in the early 2000s, and this was when, up until this point, I think bands had mostly been known for playing covers and just the odd school or college event here and there. It was like a very casual thing. Like mainstream music was restricted to, well, Bollywood and the mass commercial stuff. And there was this scene by around 2003 2004, like when bands started like writing real original music and like just promoting that, which, I mean, obviously it looks like we caught on very late compared to the rest of the world. But um so I happened to move to a very remote student town in the south of India right when this started happening. And I remember that the internet was a thing, of course, and but it was limited to just discussion boards and forums, and there would be all of these guys posting like gig reviews and reviewing like the latest demo that someone had just put out. And I remember it all being so exciting and so new because this was something I'd never seen happen from my country, and I wanted to be part of it, but I couldn't because, well, I mean, I was pretty much in the middle of nowhere. And even though it was a student town, and I was surrounded by kids that were my age, like no one really wanted to do original music. Like it was mostly people just wanted to do, again, the same thing, just play Metallica covers. So every band that you see going on stage, they would play like a medley of Metallica, Rage Against the Machine, and just some really, really, really random bands from the 90s and stuff. So anyway, so I mean, I remember thinking, well, okay, I can't be a part of the scene that's going on back home, but I really have all of these ideas, and I want to be able to make just be a part of like the whole rock and roll thing somehow. And uh, you know so I started to look up on the internet what it would be like, how I could maybe use a drum machine or things like this to just at least play along with myself, if nothing else. And then, as it happened, I was just browsing some discussion boards, like some forums on home recording, and I came across this username called Tesseract. And of course, we all know where that ended up going. But at that point of time, Tesseract was just, again, just this one guy doing a solo project in his bedroom. And there was another username called, I think it was Bulb. Yeah, Bulb, who of course was Misha from Periphery. And all these guys were just, doing very, very basic home recordings. But I checked out some of their demos and I was mind blown. I was like, holy shit, this is incredible. Like, this guy's doing this with zero overhead cost. I need to know how to do this. And of course, like, the style of music was fascinating, right? I mean, they were doing this whole Meshuggah inspired thing, but like with a very, very cool twist on it, you know. So I just remember thinking, holy crap, like this is something that's so new and so unique and so under the radar that I feel like I want to get in on this now. And then I started, just figuring out ways to acquire the cheapest software, plugins, like some really cheap, say like a Pod XT, like the early guitar boxes that we used to get, and just started like, putting these crappy home demos of mine together as well. And of course, as it happened, I think we all know that this style of music then suddenly became really, really popular, like towards the end of the decade. And all of a sudden I had people coming to me saying, all right, look, you've posted your stuff online and I think it's crazy, which to me was crazy because this music was so like weird and like so nerdy, right? I was like, this is never going to be cool. But I had all these people coming up to me, like friends included and even strangers, just being like, yo, you need to put an album out. And then I was like, all right, cool, well, I might as well do it, it's fun, I'm doing it all by myself anyway. So then I finally got around to doing that. And around the time that I was ready to release it, a friend of mine who worked at the Rock Street Journal in New Delhi, um, who was in touch with Bali at Basic Records in the UK, because they used to release a basic compilation CD, like, every now and then to promote their bands in the country. And he reached out to Basic being like, yo, would you be interested in signing an Indian band? And Bali replied saying that he'd been keeping tabs on what I was doing for a while and that, yeah, he would be keen. And I was just like, whoa, all right, here we go. So then, I reached out to him. We discussed a contract. It was I mean, most of it went over my head, but I was just like, holy crap, like, is this really happening? And at the same time, around that same time, as it turns out, like, I gotten an offer from a friend of mine who worked at this festival called the NH7 Weekender, which was at its time like one of the most up and coming music festivals in the country. Like, they had Imogen Heap, who was headlining that year's event, and again, some really cool shit. I mean, as it turns out, this year they had Sleep Makes Waves from Australia, who I'm sure you guys know,
Yeah.
who are also very, very good friends of ours. So yeah, so it was that festival who asked me, well, your project has been getting a lot of attention. Would you be interested in putting a band together and maybe playing some shows? So that happened. And again, like I say, all these things literally like fell into my lap. So I was thinking, all right, who do I know who can execute this kind of music and play it accurately? Because it was fairly technical. I'd never really given any thought to any particular people that I wanted to play it with. So I was just generally putting the feelers out and asking some people who might be interested in playing, when again I just randomly got a message from Anup Sastry, who was this drummer based in Maryland, who was just unbelievably ridiculous. And he was like, I want to do like drum covers and videos of me playing through your songs, like, and put them up on my YouTube channel. So I was like, all right, well, do you want to play some shows as well? And then it was just that. It was as simple as that. And he was like, yeah, I'm down to play this show. What do I have to do? And I was just like, just come to India. Like, I know it's a bit of a hike, but do you think you could make it? Maybe we'll figure something out. And of course, yeah, we figured it out. Like, he came all the way. We said hi. We went straight to the rehearsal room. We jammed it out for a couple of days, and then we went on stage and we played. And after that first show, I mean, it was just a three-piece. It was me, a bass player, and him. And of course, by this point of time, Dan Tompkins had recorded all the vocals on the album already. So then I reached out to him saying that on the basis of that first show, we got an offer from Lamb of God to support them on one of their India dates in May of 2012. And so I reached out to Dan being like, yo, okay, I know you didn't make the first show, but this is happening. Again, it's Lamb of God. All of these offers are just like coming at me left and right. Like, do you want to be a part of this? And he was like, yeah, it's Lamb of God. I'm not going to say no to that. So then on the basis of...
That struck me as a bit of a weird one, that Lamb of God and you guys. How did that go?
It was crazy. So I'll tell you what happened. Again, it was just... This is where I have to say, like, if it weren't for things like the internet, like, none of this would have happened. None of this would have happened. Because, again, like, on the basis of that first show, a few weeks later, I just happened to get a message from some username on SoundCloud of all websites in the world. I got a message from some username called Eagle Adler. And when I first saw it, I was like, yeah, all right, that's cool. Because, like, every guy and his dog these days is putting the word Adler in their surname, because everyone just wants to be associated with, like, whatever, metal bands. Like on Facebook, how you have people saying, adding some ridiculous middle name, which is like some crazy satanic middle name or whatever. So I was like, all right, Eagle Adler must be some Lamb of God fan. And he was like, hey, I want to sign you to my label. And, like, would you be? And I was like, okay, whatever. I ignored it. I literally ignored it. And then, like, a couple of weeks later, he responded saying, hey, just wondering if you'd seen this message. I run a record label, and I was wondering if you might want to have a conversation sometime. Signed, Chris Adler. And I was like, shit. Okay. So then I replied back to him saying that, oh my God, Chris, I'm so sorry. Like, it's an honor to hear from you, blah, 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 blah. And I've actually just signed a deal with Basics. I'm afraid that won't be possible, but, like, it would be I've heard that Lamb of God might be planning to come to our country. So if that ever were to work out, it would be an honor and a privilege to, support you guys. The next thing I know is that he's reached out to Bali at Basic and told them that he wants Skyharbor to, like, be direct support to Lamb of God when they play in India. And I was just like, okay, like, part of me was just like, all of this is a dream, right? I mean, I'm not discounting the fact that I was doing something cool, but it was just really a case of being in the right place at the right time and grabbing all these opportunities as they came in. Like, because I was pretty much in this place where I was like, if I have to pay for Dan to fly it all the way down to India, and these international flights are a hefty cost, but I was like, you know what, I'm just going to do it. Like, I'll figure something out. I wasn't rich. I was just out of college, and I was unemployed, but I was like, I'll figure something out. Like, I'll make it happen. Like, the future can take care of itself. And yeah, so, one thing led to another, and here we are today.
Yeah, not bad. Not bad at all.